So today we're delighted to be joined by Lucy from Great Commission from the Evangelical Alliance. Lucy, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Yeah, great to be with you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us today. So Lucy, just to give us a little insight, what is Great Commission and the Evangelical Alliance?
Yeah, so the Evangelical Alliance is an umbrella body representing over 80 denominations in the UK and thousands of churches and individual Christians. So we've been around for 170 years, and we're all about seeing the church in the UK united in mission and confident and effective in our voice. So greatcommission.co.uk is a new website which we've launched recently, all about inspiring and equipping us as individuals and churches to be sharing the good news of Jesus with those around us.
Now, Evangelical Alliance produce some fantastic videos, don't you, on various different topics. You deal with issues including addiction, drug addiction, alcohol, faith, relationships with Christ. Tell us a little bit about the procedures you take place when you're producing these kind of videos.
Yeah, so greatcommission.co.uk, our passion is to inspire the church to be sharing all about Jesus with the people they know. So we've been producing every single Monday morning. There's a new video going out sharing that good news of lives that have been changed by Jesus all across our nation. So we've had stories of people like Joe, who suffered years of addiction to substances, but then when he called out to God, he had freedom from those addictions, and he's now helping to evangelize others and bring others to faith. People like Sheila, who are sharing their story with others. She's just a wonderful elderly lady based in Peterborough who, even in the fish and chip shop, she's offering to pray for people. So it's just these short, inspiring stories which we're putting out on the website and on social media, just to encourage people to think, who could they share Jesus with?
So you're dealing with real life issues that people go through on a day-to-day basis. Tell us where it all started. Who had the idea to start this amazing ministry?
Yeah, so as I say, the EA is all about inspiring the church to be united in mission. And our director of mission is a guy called Gavin Calver. And his real heart is for evangelism, seeing people come to faith. And he had this dream of this website that would really put tools in the hands of individual Christians and churches who are maybe wondering, how do I reach out? So we've got loads of ideas, we've got a blog on there, we've got more than 200 resources for people to connect with. And his dream was every Monday morning to have a new story going out there, kind of changing that negative script that some of us have, saying, look, God is at work across our nation, and inspiring people of how can they get involved with what God is doing.
Now, Lucy, you're part of the web team, you're the web manager, and also you help to produce some of these amazing videos as well. Tell us a little bit about your role.
Yes, so I'm the Unity Programs Manager here at the Evangelical Alliance. So part of my role is heading up the Great Commission team. So we've got some great web developers in-house and the team within the Unity for Mission team. So pulling together stories. We've got such connections to great leaders all across the UK church. So people are writing blogs, telling us what their churches are doing, telling us how they're sharing faith at work. So it's just a really inspiring project to be involved in.
Now, when someone goes through an addiction, for example, either it's drug addiction or alcohol, for example, they could feel like they're alone. I guess the positive thing that you're doing is releasing these kind of videos, so when people who are going through similar circumstances, they get the confidence to be able to speak out to their friends, their families and their church as well. How important is that?
Yeah, so our stories, the main heart behind them is to encourage people to be sharing their faith in Jesus. But as we're coming across these stories, it's just so powerful what God can do. A real message of hope comes through so many of them, people who maybe struggle with mental illness or addictions, but have just had God speak such a hope and a purpose into their lives. And it also encourages all of us of how might God want to use us? Who are we in touch with? Who are we connected with that we can share that good news with and give hope to?
Now, Lucy, tell us a little bit about your story. Where did your journey with Christ? Have you been a Christian since you were a child?
Yeah, so I grew up in a really strong Christian family, and I'd say I've always had a faith in God and in Jesus from a really young age. So there's not sort of one point where I came to faith. But I remember when I was about 12 or 13, a group of friends at church were getting baptized. And I've always been someone who doesn't like to just follow the trend. So I didn't want to do it just because everyone else was. But I remember a few weeks before the baptism, I was at a church service, another church, and just really felt God speak to me in one of the worship songs, and just felt, yes, I was ready to give my life to Jesus, or make that public commitment about what the decision I'd made in my heart. So I told my parents, they were overjoyed that I was getting baptized. And it's been a journey since there, really, experiencing the Holy Spirit really strongly at a youth festival called Soul Survivor. That was really key to my kind of growth.
Now, give us an insight. You're obviously involved with the website side of things at the Evangelical Alliance and the producing of the videos and everything. For some of our viewers who may not as be familiar with social media and videos and everything else like that, give us an insight into the kinds of pressure that some of these young people are under, especially these bloggers. They're constantly putting out their web blogs every day and trying to show the perfect image, perfect lifestyle. What sort of pressure are they being put under?
Yeah, so something that's great about the greatcommission.co.uk stories is that it's people from all different backgrounds. You know, it's not people of a certain image or anything like that. But obviously we're aware that social media can be a place where particularly young people, but also older people, compare themselves to others. And there's this kind of perfect image of people's lives that they put out there. So I think if maybe parents, if you're worried about how your young people are sort of responding to that, I just say it's great to just be communicating and dialoguing with them, telling them that, you know, what you see on social media isn't the person's whole life. They will have struggles, that, you know, the airbrushing happens with all these celebrity pictures. So it's just kind of having those lines of communication open and dialoguing to talk about how there's great things about social media, but also it's important that we don't get kind of overwhelmed and feel that we have to live up to these expectations that people have of us.
Now, what sort of advice would you give? You mentioned about the parents there, and that's key. Some of the parents who say, my children are on social media, they're on the Instagrams and Facebooks and Periscopes and Twitter and everything else, but maybe some of the parents aren't quite up to date with all this technology. How can they keep hold or keep in communication with their children to make sure everything is okay? Yeah,
so something that my mum always kind of said she tried to do bringing us up was explain why it wasn't wise to do a certain thing, or why it was wise to stay away from a certain activity. So not just saying, no, don't do it, but explaining and talking through, you know, what the potential impact can be. So, for example, you know, sitting down with your child and looking through their Facebook page and just chatting together about maybe some of the posts their friends have put up and things they've done, and just talking through why and how could that have a potential impact on people is just a good way to, rather than saying, you know, cutting everything off, just trying to talk through with our children why it's important to behave in a certain way and how we can respond when different situations come up.
I guess as parents, the parents want to do is just build the foundations for the child, so when they're a teenager or they're old enough to go into the big wide world, they're responsible and they're able to make their own decisions in life, because eventually they will have to leave home one day to either go to university or get married and start their own life. The parent's not going to be around forever next to them to tell them what to do and what not to do. But it's true is that as parents, because I can now say I've got a little child, I've got a little daughter, she's 8 years old, and as parents all I can do is teach her to make the right decisions in life. So when she is old enough, she'll have that responsibility herself.
Yeah, definitely. And it's been one of the great things in the stories we're sharing at greatcommission.co.uk is some of the stories of the young people. So there's a teenager called Ben sharing how he's sharing his faith in his school. And we've been hearing stories of older people watching that video and saying, oh, I've never been as confident as that young lad in sharing my faith. And then people actually gathering around and praying for that person. So, you know, young people can also teach us so much.
Lucy, what advice would you give to any young people today who are watching? They might be a new Christian or even a non-Christian. What sort of advice would you give to them today?
Yeah, so I'd just say that God is really a loving father. I mean, he can have this reputation of kind of a headmaster, you know, shaking his cane at us. But really, my experience, and my husband, you know, his dad wasn't around growing up, but he's just really experienced God as that loving father who's always there. So I'd say just call out to God. If you're in a hard situation, you're never actually alone because God is there. And if you want to hear, you know, maybe a bit more about how other people have been impacted by Jesus, then do visit greatcommission.co.uk/watch and have a look at some of the stories of what Jesus, you know, the difference Jesus can make in your life.
Wonderful. Lucy from Great Commission, Evangelical Alliance, thank you so much indeed for joining us today. Take care and God bless.
God bless.